Boston. Winter snow blurred every edge of the city. 3:14 a.m. inside a small rented apartment on the 4th floor, a young mother, Christina Miles, stood under the dim blue light of her sitting room. Her daughter, Maisie, whimpered from the crib made of an old closet. "Almost done, sweetheart," she whispered. When she finished drinking, she laid her back down and waited, watching her fingers loosen, her eyelids flutter shut. For the first time that night, the apartment was still. Christina rubbed her arms for warmth. The heater had quit again. She turned to her phone on the counter. Balance $2,000. Rent due in 7 days. The fridge held 1 carton of milk, 5 eggs. Then the phone buzzed again. Heavier, sharper. Official approved, wire $1,000 for harbor expansion acquisition. Reply: yes, last 4. Cut off 11:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Read: Read Horizons Holdings. Christina blinked, thinking her eyes were tired. The logo was real. The format bank standard, no links, no errors, $1,000 million. For a moment she just stood there, the sound of rain and Maisie's soft breathing mixing with the impossible number on her screen. Her instinct said scam. But something in her, the part trained from years working as a junior project accountant, noticed how clean the document header was. The encryption footer was there too. She soliloquized, "This can't be real." But she checked again. Jeff. Search results. Chris Jeff, CEO of Jeff Horizons, billionaire developer, 45 under 45, Boston's most private man. Another reminder, authorization pending. Pulse seized. Christina looked at the message, then at her sleeping daughter. With that kind of money, she could fix everything. Her mother's closed business, Maisie's medical bills. But she also knew one wrong reply, one greedy choice, and she'd lose more than she could ever count. The fridge hummed once and went silent again. She took a deep breath, grabbed a clean Ziploc bag from the drawer and slid the phone inside, pressed the seal close until it clicked. "You're not mine," she murmured. Then she sat on the floor beside Maisie's bed, knees to her chest, waiting for morning light and a decision that would define her. By dawn, Christina left Maisie with her neighbor, wrapped herself in a worn coat, and caught the 7 a.m. bus downtown. The phone, still in the sealed bag, was inside her pocket, heavy as truth. Boston's skyline rose through the mist, cranes, glass, and steel stretching above her world of unpaid bills. When she stepped down from the bus, the wind hit hard. Jeff Horizons Tower stood in front of her, 40 floors of mirrored confidence. Inside, men and women in designers' coats moved with purpose. She hesitated just beyond the revolving door, water dripping from her hair. You could turn back now. No one would. No. But she pushed forward. The security guard glanced at her wet clothes and tired eyes. "Can I help you, ma'am?" Christina held up the Ziploc bag. "I need to return this." "To who?" she swallowed. "Mr. Chris Jeff." The guard blinked, unsure whether to laugh or call back up. "Do you have an appointment?" "No." Her voice was steady and shaky. "But he'll want this back." The receptionist looked up from her screen, cautious curiosity in her tone. "And you are? Christina Miles?" She explained. "I'm here to return something that isn't mine." The words hung in the air, clear as glass. The receptionist hesitated, then picked up the phone. "One moment, please." Christina stood still. The marble floor reflected. The ceiling lights like shallow water. Rain traced silver lines down the tall glass walls behind her. A soft chime echoed. From the far hallway, a security officer appeared. "Miss Miles, follow me, please." She did. Past glass offices, past people who barely looked up. Her reflection followed her in. Every polished surface. A woman out of place carrying something too valuable to belong in her hands. The officer stopped by an elevator, swiped his badge and nodded her inside. As the doors closed, Christina caught her breath. Was it no way back? The elevator climbed through the quiet. The city fell away beneath her feet. When the doors opened, a flood of light spilled in from the tall windows. Somewhere ahead, voices murmured. And for the first time since 3:14 a.m., Christina understood. She was no longer part of the world she'd left behind. She was stepping into someone else's world, someone powerful, someone watching. The elevator carried Christina upward in silence. Each floor number glowed for a heartbeat, then vanished. When the doors opened, the sound changed. Less chatter, more restraint. Polished corridors stretched ahead, all steel and glass. A young assistant in a black suit stood waiting. "Miss Miles, this way, please." Christina followed, clutching the sealed Ziploc bag inside her pocket like a fragile truth. The passed open offices where people typed without looking. Up, their screens full of numbers that could feed. The assistant stopped before a door with frosted glass. Chris Jeff CO. He tapped once, waited, then pushed it open. Wide windows, quiet lake beyond, shelves lined with architectural models. At the far end stood a man in a white shirt, sleeves rolled up, eyes fixed on a digital wall map of harbor. He turned when she entered. Chris Jeff, late 30s, calm in every movement. The assistant spoke softly. Sir, this is Miss Miles, the one who came about the message. Jeff nodded once. Thank you, William. You can go. When the door clicked shut, Christina stood frozen. Her shoes left small wet marks on the stone floor. He gestured toward a chair near the corner. You can sit. She stayed standing. I won't take long. Jeff watched her carefully, then said, You came to return something. Christina took the Ziploc bag from her coat and placed it on the desk. Inside, the phone screen still glowed with the message from the night before. I think this belongs to you. He didn't reach for it. Instead, he studied her face. You could have ignored it. I almost did. What made you come? Her fingers tightened around her pocket because keeping it would cost me more than I could ever spend. Something shifted in his expression like recognition. He finally picked up the phone, entered a code, and the screen unlocked instantly. Jeff exhaled, half in disbelief. Our internal system ran a simulation last night. Sent this test authorization by mistake. You intercepted it before anyone else could. You looked up. You realize what would have happened if you hadn't? Christina hesitated. I didn't want to find out. He gave a faint nod. Most people wouldn't have come here. They'd call a lawyer first. I can't afford one, she said, simply. The corner of his mouth almost curved. Amusement, half respect. Then you must understand. Integrity doesn't usually come cheap. I'm not here for a reward, Christina replied. Just to make sure it's safe. Jeff's gaze softened. The kind that measures rather than judges. You've already done that. He turned off the phone, placed it aside, and leaned forward slightly. Do you mind if I ask what you do, Miss Miles? I used to be a project accountant, she said, until the company downsized last year. Construction? Yes. Small scale, mostly residential. Infrastructure. Then you might recognize this. He gestured toward the large wall map, the one Christina had noticed when she first walked in. It displayed dozens of zones marked Harbor Redevelopment Project. Christina stepped closer, instinctively scanning the grid lines, and then she saw it. One name printed near the bottom edge. Willow Way Avenue, her mother's block. Her voice tightened. That's my neighborhood. Jeff turned slightly. Is it? She faced him. My mother lives there. Or she did before her building and business went into foreclosure. Are you the one taking it down? He studied her reaction. You think I'm demolishing it? I think the map says enough. The rain outside thickened, tapping the windows. Jeff took a moment before answering. Not the one trying to erase Harbor Care. Miss Miles, I'm the one trying to save it. Christina frowned. From what? From people who see it as land, not lives. He stepped closer to the map, pointed to a cluster of red lines near the waterfront. This project is supposed to rebuild storm defenses, affordable housing, green zones, but some of my contractors decided there's more profit in fake invoices and inflated budgets. Christina blinked, trying to follow. So, you're saying I'm saying we're bleeding millions into things that don't exist, he said quietly. And every dollar they steal is one less home rebuilt. Her mind caught on the words. Fake invoices. That was a language she knew. Why tell me this? Jeff looked directly at her. Because you found what? Half my board pretends not to see the cost of doing the right thing. Maybe you understand it better than they do. Christina shook her head. I just returned a phone. And in doing so, he said, you returned something I thought this place had lost. She hesitated. What's that? Trust. The word lingered, unexpected and heavy. He checked his watch, then looked back up. There's something I'd like you to see before you go downstairs in accounting. I don't work here. Neither do most of the people who fix things, he replied, already heading for the door. After a long pause, Christina followed. They walked down a quieter corridor past the glass offices where assistants whispered over budgets. The hum of printers filled the air. Through the window, rain stretched like ink over light. When they reached the accounting floor, Jeff handed her a thin folder. Our project summaries. I can't prove the fraud yet, but the numbers feel wrong. Christina flipped the pages. columns, codes, flood control expenses doubled overnight. Familiar signature on the bottom, Starlight Contractors. I've seen this pattern before, she murmured. Padding safety. Budgets, triple billing consultants who don't exist. Studied her reaction. Would you be willing to look closer? Christina hesitated. You don't even know me. I know what kind of person returns $1 billion she doesn't own. That stopped her cold. The hallway lights reflected in his eyes. Rain and glass blending into one. He extended a business card. If you change your mind, call me. No obligation. Christina took the card. Her fingers brushed his briefly, and she felt the faint tremor of someone who carried too much control for too long. Then he said quietly, "You did the right thing, Miss Miles. That doesn't happen much around here." She turned to leave, but before stepping into the elevator, she glanced once more at the map of harbor behind the glass wall. The same streets, the same rain, but now, carrying questions she couldn't shake. The bus jolted as it hit a puddle, spraying the window beside Christina. She barely noticed. The folder from Jeff Horizon sat on her lap, edges damp from the rain. Maisie slept against her shoulder, warm and heavy. The city lights rippled through the mist. Outside, every glow a question she couldn't quiet. Why trust a stranger who showed up with $1 billion mistake? She opened the folder again. Rows of figures, vendor IDs, payment dates, flood prevention. Invoices duplicated twice in 1 week. A signature she recognized from her past job, Starlight Company. Contractors. She traced the numbers with her finger, each inconsistency sharp as a whisper. Someone was siphoning millions under storm infrastructure. Her stop came too soon. She tucked the folder under her arm, climbed the stairs to her building, and stepped into the narrow hallway that smelled faintly of rain and detergent. Inside, she sat Maisie down in her bed and sat at the table. For years she'd balanced books for small construction firms, seeing but never speaking about the tricks that kept executives rich and workers broke. Now those same tricks sat in front of her again, only multiplied by 1,000. Her phone. Unknown number. She hesitated before answering. Miss Miles. The voice was calm. Low mail. This is Andrew from Starlight Company. We understand you met with Mr. Jeff this morning. Her stomach tightened. How do you know that? We have connections inside Jeff Horizons, he replied. And we're aware he showed you documents concerning harbor. She stayed silent. Calling because we'd like to make things easier for you, he continued smoothly. A woman in your position shouldn't have to struggle. You've done the right thing returning that phone. Let us show our appreciation. $400,000 cash delivered discreetly. All you need to do is stay quiet. Christina stared at the rain sliding down the window. Her hand trembled slightly. Is that what you call appreciation? It's a chance, he said. Not everyone gets one. Take it, Miss Miles, or you'll wish you had. The line went dead. She sat there motionless. Maisie stirred in her sleep, making small sounds. Christina reached for her instinctively, then stopped, her hand frozen midair. Looked at the folder again. Numbers that once seemed harmless now felt like a threat. The knock came 5 minutes later. 3 short raps. Christina turned off the light, heart pounding through the peephole, an envelope taped to the door. She waited until the footsteps faded, then opened it. Inside, no note, no name, just cash, thick stacks, a faint scent of cologne, the kind of money that could erase years of hunger, bills, and fear. Her breath hitched. She set the envelope beside the baby bottle on the counter. For a long minute she just stared. Then she murmured to herself, almost a prayer, "No, not this way." She reached for the Ziploc bag again, the one she'd used to return the phone, and slid the envelope inside, sealing it shut like a crime scene. The next day, the sky was a dull blue mirror. Christina returned to Jeff Horizons holding that same Ziploc bag. Security recognized her instantly. Back again? Yes, she said. I need to see Mr. Jeff. Minutes later, she was standing once more in his office. Jeff looked up from his desk, surprised. You found something? Christina placed the Ziploc bag in front of him. Someone found me. He frowned, unzipping the bag. His eyes narrowed at the sight of the Where did this come from? Your contractor. Harlan Company. For a moment, only the rain filled the silence. Jeff's voice was low, restrained. They tried to buy you off. Christina nodded. $400,000 to stay quiet. He exhaled slowly, jaw tightening. You should have called the police and told them what? That a single mother got bribed after walking into a billionaire's office with $1 billion mistake? Expression softened. You could have kept it. I know. What? Didn't you? Her eyes met his. Because I'm already tired of owing people. The room went still. Something in him, something buried under years of corporate armor, shifted. He leaned back, looking at her with quiet respect. You said yesterday you weren't here for a reward. I'm not, she said. But I won't pretend I'm not scared either. Then let's make it official, Jeff said. If they're willing to bribe you, it means you're close to the truth. Work with me, Miss Miles. Help me prove it. Christina hesitated. I'm not sure I belong in your world. He shook his head. You already stepped into it the moment you brought that phone back. The rain stretched harder against the glass as he added quietly. Now we finish what you started. The next morning, Boston wore its usual blue armor. The rain never stopped, only softened enough to remind people it was still there. Inside Jeff Horizon's tower, Christina sat in a small corner office that used to store spare monitors. On the desk before her lay stacks of digital printouts, expenses sheets, subcontractor logs, and vendor approvals. Each line was a puzzle. Every number a clue. Jeff's voice came from the doorway. You're really doing this? She looked up. You asked me to help. I didn't expect you to start before sunrise. Christina gave a faint smile. Single moms get used to working before the world wakes up. Stepped closer, setting down 2 coffees. They shared a quiet laugh, brief human before returning to the screen. Hours passed. Christina traced inconsistencies. Flood barriers built thrice. Safety inspections signed by non-existent engineers. Each anomaly pointed back to Starlight Company and further up to a middleman named Mason, listed as project advisor. By noon, she circled 1 page and slid it toward Jeff. This vendor ID MAS 50 doesn't match any federal license. It's a shell company. See this? Jeff moved closer. They're routing funds through it. They're inflating preventive maintenance costs, then channeling the excess through this account. How much are we talking about? Christina calculated fast. Roughly 50 million hidden inside a flood defense budget. Jeff's jaw tightened. That's where the missing capital went. He turned away, staring out at the rain-streaked skyline. They're gutting harbor care from the inside while the board blames me for delays. Christina looked at him. You can expose it if you move fast. He nodded, but his tone carried exhaustion beneath control. Every name I accuse is tied to shareholders who can bury this with 1 press release. Then we go under the radar, she said. Start with the invoices quietly. Build evidence they can't erase. Studied her a moment. You talk like someone who's done this before. I have, she said softly. Only last time I spoke. Up and they let me go. By evening, the building emptied. The lights dimmed to a warm amber. Christina packed her notes, but before she left, Jeff stopped her. I'll walk you out. They crossed the silent lobby together, the sound of rain echoing through the glass atrium. Outside, headlights smeared across wet pavement. Be careful, he said. Starlight knows you're involved. They already know. She interrupted. They sent money to my door. Looked at her, conflicted. You shouldn't have to be part of this. I already am, she replied. Because people like them count on women like me staying quiet. For once, the controlled billionaire had no reply. The next day, Jeff called a closed meeting with his legal counsel and security head. Christina was there quietly taking notes. We've confirmed the shell accounts, she explained, flipping open the files. And here's something else. Safety reports were signed off by someone who doesn't exist. Look, she showed them a digital signature. W. Harris. Jeff frowned. Never employed here. It's a fabrication, she continued. The same signature appears across multiple project phases, all tied to the inflated cost. Why? This is dangerous. If we expose it now, the board will spin it as an internal scandal. Investors will panic. Jeff's tone hardened. So, we do nothing. Not nothing? Christina said, surprising them. We go hire federal oversight. Quietly file it before they can intercept. The council looked uneasy. You're suggesting we hand over internal evidence against our own board. I'm suggesting you protect the people you claim to serve, Christina replied. Jeff met her eyes. For a second, something unspoken passed between them. Trust, maybe, or respect carved by risk. He finally said, prepare. Everything. I'll take the fall if I have to. That night, Christina returned home exhausted. Maisie was already asleep. Sat beside the crib, watching the small rhythm of her breathing. She whispered, "We're okay, baby. Just a little longer." Then her phone buzzed again, a message and signed. "You don't know what you've started, Miss Miles. Harbor isn't yours to save." Her hands tightened around the phone. For the first time, fear was real, but so was resolve. She turned off the screen, exhaled, and murmured, "They were right. About one thing. It isn't mine, but it's worth saving anyway." Morning came muted, gray, and heavy with fog. The city felt like it was holding its breath. Inside Jeff Horizons, Christina stood before the copy room scanner, feeding document after document through the machine. Her eyes burned from lack of sleep. Each file was a brick in the invisible wall she and Jeff were building. Proof. At 8:15 a.m., Jeff entered quietly, coat damp from rain. "How long have you been here?" "Since 4. "You're going to burn out," he said. "Not before they do." He almost smiled, but the look in his eyes wasn't pride. It was worry. They moved to the small project lab where no one else worked. On the whiteboard, Christina had drawn lines connecting MAS 417, Starlight Company Board Procurement Division. At the top equals internal leak. Jeff circled the last phrase. "We still don't know who inside is feeding them information." Christina said, "Every leak starts with access. Only 6 board members can see these authorization codes. Someone near you." He nodded grimly. "Which means any move I make will trigger suspicion." Christina turned to him. "Then I'll move instead." "You?" "I'm invisible here. No one notices the woman with the temp badge." Jeff hesitated, then said, "All right, but if anyone asks, you're auditing legacy accounts. Keep your phone off." By noon, Christina sat at an empty workstation 3 floors below, tracing a digital trail through archived emails. She wasn't looking for words. She was looking for patterns. Repeated timestamps, same attachments renamed. Then she saw it. An email forwarded from Harbor Care Internal to an address ending in zaxholdings.com. The sender's ID shocked her. Board member H. Dennis. She froze. Dennis, the man who publicly praised Harbor as a model of ethical redevelopment. She copied the metadata and saved it to a drive labeled Truth. Her pulse quickened. She grabbed her coat and hurried toward the executive floor. Jeff was mid-meeting with the legal counsel when Christina slipped him a note. "Need a minute. Urgent." Excused himself, joining her in the hall. "What is it?" Handed him the flash drive. "I found your leak, Dennis." Jeff's expression hardened. "You're certain?" "I traced an internal authorization file sent directly to Zax Holdings. It's a shadow partner of Starlight Company." He stared at the drive, processing the weight of what she'd uncovered. "That explains how they knew about every audit before we even started." Christina lowered her voice. "You need to move now before he buries the evidence." But before Jeff could reply, his phone vibrated. He glanced down and his face changed. "What is it?" she asked. Turned the screen toward her. It was a breaking news alert. Anonymous source leaks internal audit from Jeff Horizons suggesting corruption inside Harbor. Christina's throat tightened. "That's our data. Someone leaked it before we could verify it." The next hours blurred into chaos. Reporters swarmed the lobby. The board demanded an emergency meeting. By evening, Jeff's office was surrounded by lawyers and PR staff. Christina sat in a corner chair, silent, watching him face the onslaught. The legal counsel snapped. "You realize what this means? The feds will open investigation. Stock will crash. The board will hang you for negligence." Jeff replied evenly. "If the truth is out, it's worth it." The counsel lowered his voice. "Not if it destroys the company." Jeff turned to Christina. "We need to know who leaked it. Was it sent from your terminal?" Her stomach twisted. "No, but the files were on my drive." He inhaled sharply. "Then someone accessed your station, meaning they knew I was working with you," she said. He met her eyes. "And now you're in danger again." That night, Christina left the building under security escort. The city outside was louder than usual. Sirens, traffic, and news vans buzzing around the corporate tower. She reached home, locked the door, and pressed her forehead against the cool wall. Maisie stirred in his sleep. Christina sat beside him, whispering, "We did the right thing, right?" Her phone buzzed again. A new message, no number. "Truth won't save you, Miss Miles, but it will bury him." She stared at it until the screen dimmed. In the reflection, rain glimmered against the glass, just like the day she returned that phone. Only now she realized doing right wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of the storm. Morning headlines hit like a hammer. $1 billion project scandal. Jeff Horizons under federal scrutiny. CEO accused of harbor corruption. By 7 a.m., news vans surrounded Jeff Horizons tower. Flashbulbs exploded behind the glass lobby. Inside, Christina waited in the elevator, her reflection pale in the mirrored doors. Her ID badge felt heavier than ever. When the doors opened, she stepped into chaos. Staff whispering, screens flashing. News feeds, lawyers moving fast. At the end of the hall, Jeff stood before the boardroom doors. His face was controlled, but his eyes were shadowed by exhaustion. "You shouldn't be here," he said quietly as she approached. "I started this with you. I'm not running now." "This isn't loyalty," he replied. "It's danger. Maybe both." He looked at her a long moment, then nodded. "Stay close. Don't speak unless you have to." Inside the boardroom, the atmosphere was electric. All tension and accusation. The 15 board members sat like a tribunal. The head was Henry Dennis, impeccably calm voice, smooth as glass. "Mr. Jeff," he began, "the leaks have placed this company in jeopardy. The SEC is calling for an emergency audit. Our stock has fallen 20% in one day. Investors are demanding your resignation." Jeff stayed composed. "If you believe I'm behind this, you're mistaken." "Then who?" Dennis asked. Jeff didn't answer. Dennis leaned forward. "You built Harbor. You signed every contract. If fraud occurred, the responsibility falls on you." Christina watched in silence, her hands cold in her lap. She glanced at Dennis and saw the smallest flicker of something behind his composure. Control. Satisfaction. When the meeting adjourned, Dennis approached Jeff with a sympathetic tone that didn't match his eyes. "Step aside quietly, Jeff. Protect what's left of your legacy." Jeff didn't flinch. "I protect the truth, Charles, not the lie you built." Dennis' jaw tightened. "Careful. You don't know who you're fighting." As he walked away, Jeff muttered, "Now I do." That night, Jeff called Christina to his private office. Stacks of printed articles lay on his desk, the headlines circling like vultures. He poured coffee, his hands steady. Only on the surface. "They've frozen internal access. Our data systems are locked under review. The federal agents will be here in 48 hours. Then we give them what they need," Christina said. "The full evidence set." He shook his head. "They won't believe it came from us. The leak poisoned the trail. They'll think I'm hiding behind forged evidence." Christina's eyes hardened. "Then we find another way." Jeff looked. "What do you mean?" "Go around them. File directly to the federal office through a personal whistleblower channel. But to do that, we'll need to extract the source files before they disappear." "You mean tonight?" Nodded before Dennis wipes them. For a moment, neither spoke. Rain lashed against the glass, thunder low in the distance. Finally, Jeff said, "If we do this, we do it. Right. No shortcuts. No lies," she said. He gave a faint smile. "You really don't scare easily, do you?" Christina looked out the window at the city that had forgotten people like her. "Fear doesn't fix anything." Later that night, the Jeff Horizons building was nearly empty. Christina swiped her temporary ID. The elevator hummed downward to the archival basement, the company's digital cold storage. Jeff waited there, already in front of a terminal, typing access codes. The hum of servers filled the air like steady breathing. Christina handed him a flash drive. "This will mirror the entire Harbor database. Once we take it," Jeff said, "there's no going back. Neither of us were supposed to be here in the first place," she replied. They started the extraction. Lines of code flickered across the screen. Progress bar 32%, 47%. Then the monitors blinked. Warning flashed red. Access terminated. Admin override. Jeff swore under his breath. He's shutting it down. Remotely. Christina thought fast. If he's online now, he's leaving a trail. She disconnected the network cable, isolating the terminal. Now we can't stop it locally. Jeff stared at her. You just cut the company's main link. Then hurry. Minutes later, the transfer completed. She ejected the drive, sealing it inside a metal case. Jeff looked at her, a mixture of respect and disbelief. You just outmaneuvered a board director. Not yet, she said. He'll come for you next. At dawn, as the rain eased into mist, Christina left the building. Through the loading dock, flash drive in her coat pocket. Across the street, a black car idled, tinted windows. Motionless, she felt it before she saw it. Someone watching. Her breath slowed. She turned the corner, blending into the bus crowd. Behind her, the car pulled. The war had officially begun. Boston's dawn came. In steel blue, the streets glistened with a thin film of rain, reflecting headlights like veins of light. Christina sat by the window of her apartment, flash drive in hand. Looked harmless, silver light, small. Yet inside it lay proof that could destroy or save everything. Maisie stirred in her crib. She brushed her hair gently and murmured, "We're almost there." Her phone vibrated. A single text from Jeff. Move at 9 o'clock. Federal Building. No turning back. At 8:57 a.m., Christina stepped out of a taxi in front of the Federal Oversight Bureau downtown. Jeff waited near the entrance, coat collar up against the drizzle. Approached quietly. "You sure about this?" she asked. He nodded. "Once it's in their hands, we can't control the outcome. But at least the truth won't belong to them anymore." They walked through security, sat across from two federal auditors. The older one, Agent Morris, tapped the table. "You understand what you're alleging, Mr. Jeff? Corporate fraud on a billion-dollar scale implicating your own board." "Yes," Jeff said. "And I have the data to prove it." Christina placed the drive on the table. Her hand trembled slightly as the agent slid it into an evidence envelope. Morris' eyes moved between them. "You'll both be under investigation too. Once this opens, everything about your involvement will become public record." Christina's throat tightened. Jeff answered first. "We understand." That night, headlines shifted again. Federal oversight receives whistleblower data from inside Reed Horizons. Anonymous source suggests board corruption, not CEO. Spread like wildfire. But then another headline followed. Faster, louder. Whistleblower identified. Christina Miles, former accountant turned insider. Her photo, the one from her temporary ID badge, filled every screen. Christina froze in her apartment. The phone rang non-stop. Reporters, strangers, threats. When she finally picked up, it wasn't any of them. It was her mother's voice, small and trembling. "Christina, they came by the house asking questions." "What did you do?" Christina's voice cracked. "I told the truth." "Mom, you don't understand," her mother whispered. "They said, you're helping the man who's destroying Harbor Care." The words hit harder than any headline. Hours later, Jeff showed up at her door. His coat was soaked through. "You need to leave town for a few days," he said firmly. "I can't," she replied. "My name's out there. No. If I run, it proves them right." He exhaled, pacing the boards, painting you as the leak. "Dennis is calling you a fraud, claiming you blackmailed me. I should have seen this coming," she said. "Truth doesn't scare them. Losing control does." Jeff stopped pacing, voice low. "Christina, this is what they do. They twist good people until they give." She looked up at him. "And you didn't?" He met her. "I had to learn not to." That night, Jeff drove her to a safe location, a small storage loft above a retired co-worker's print shop. The hum of rain followed them in. She sat on a crate, exhausted. "They'll come after you next." "They already are," he said quietly. "But they forgot something." "What?" He looked at her with quiet resolve. "You and I are not the story they think they're writing." For a moment, silence filled the room. Two people who, done the right thing, now hunted for it. The next day, the Federal Bureau confirmed part of their findings. Falsified invoices tied directly to Zach's holdings. Dennis Shell, partner. But the twist came when the investigators discovered hidden contracts inside the Harbor Care files. They weren't from Starlight Company. They were government permits signed off months ago. Christina studied the printout in disbelief. These aren't fake. They're official city approvals. They were planning the demolition months before the fraud started. Jeff's expression darkened, meaning this isn't just corporate corruption. The city's involved. The truth had shifted. The enemy was bigger than either of them imagined. He looked out through the rain-blurred window and said quietly, "We were trying to save Harbor from the board. But now it's the whole system." Christina nodded slowly, her voice steady. "Then we don't stop at them." Rain hit the windows like static. Every channel in Boston carried the same headline: Whistleblower Christina Miles, hero or accomplice. The story looped on repeat. Split screens showed her photo beside Jeff's. The captions twisting the truth. Single mother caught in $1 billion scandal. Did she help cover the fraud before exposing it? By the time Christina reached the print shop loft, her inbox overflowed. Half messages of praise, half venom. Jeff was already there staring at the silent TV. The light from the screen washed the room in cold blue. He didn't look up. They're turning it into entertainment. Christina dropped her coat on the chair. They always do. They can't discredit the story, they'll discredit the people. Turned eyes sharp. Then we stay louder than the lie. The evening, Dennis held a press conference from Jeff Horizon's HQ. His tone was calm, rehearsed. "We regret the actions of Mr. Jeff and Miss Miles, who appeared to have falsified data to protect their own interests. Jeff Horizons will fully cooperate with the authorities." Christina watched from the loft, fists clenched. "He's flipping it, making us the criminals." Jeff said nothing. He was writing something longhand on a notepad. "What are you doing?" "Drafting a statement. Not for the press, for the employees." He handed her the paper. "If integrity costs us everything, then that's the price I pay. But Starlight was never built for profit. It was built for people. And no board, no lie, no threat will change that." Christina stared at the words. "You'll lose everything if you release this." Jeff looked at her steady. "We already did. Now we fight to keep what still matters." Later that night, Christina's phone rang again, an unfamiliar number. She hesitated, then answered. "Miss Miles?" The voice was low, official. "This is Agent Morris. We need you to come in immediately." Her pulse quickened. "Something wrong?" "There's been an update. We traced several payments from Zach's holdings. One went directly to a city council member." Christina's breath caught. "You're saying the city was bribed?" "Worse," Morris said. "We think the demolition permits were backdated to legalize the fraud after the money moved." She went silent. "Christina," he added, "we'll need your statement and the drive." She hesitated. "The drive's not safe here." "Then make sure it doesn't disappear," he said and hung. The next morning the air felt thicker, heavier. Christina and Jeff sat in his car outside the federal building. He looked out the windshield. "If the city's involved, this will go beyond corporate scandal. You understand what that means?" "That we'll both be buried before it's over," she said quietly. Turned to her. "Then we make sure it counts." They walked in together, passing cameras, whispers, and the cold marble echo of judgment. Inside, Agent Morris led them to a private room. On the table sat two files, one stamped confidential, the other sealed by court order. Morris opened the first. "We have enough to indict the contractor in Dennis, but if we touch the city files, the mayor's office will retaliate. We'll need you to testify publicly." Christina felt the room close in. "You mean as the face of this?" "Yes." Morris said, "You're the only one with first-hand evidence. Without your statement, the case won't hold." Jeff spoke before she could. "She's already risked her life once. Testify instead." Morris shook his head. "The leak was tied to her. Her name is already public. The optics demand her voice." Christina looked down at her trembling hands. "If I do this, they'll destroy me." Morris' voice softened. "They already tried." That night, Christina sat alone on the floor, Maisie asleep beside her. The rain outside turned the city into a blur of gold and gray. She picked up the photo of her mother's house, the same one circled on the Harbor Care map. "Everything began with that photo," she whispered almost to herself. "Maybe it ends there too." The following day, Jeff stood in his office watching as the federal subpoenas hit the news. Jeff Horizons board under criminal investigation. Federal oversight expands inquiry into city officials. His assistant rushed in. "Sir, they're asking for your comment," Jeff replied calmly. "Tell them this. The truth is catching up." Outside, protesters gathered in the rain. Some carrying signs demanding justice, others defending the company. And amid that storm, Christina stepped Up to a podium under a gray sky. Reporters packed, shoulder to shoulder. Her voice trembled only once at the start. My name is Christina Miles. I was never meant to be here. I was a mother trying to survive. But sometimes the right thing doesn't wait for the right person. Just needs someone to do it. Silence. Then a wave of applause. Jeff, watching from the car nearby, closed his eyes. For the first time in weeks, he breathed fully. Boston woke to thunder that morning. The rain had not stopped in days, as if the city itself refused to wash clean until the truth surfaced. Christina watched the gray light filter through the blinds. Maisie was with her mother now, safer that way. On the table lay the flash drive, the one they'd taken weeks ago. It still carried the entire harbor database, the unfiltered truth. Jeff arrived quietly, trench coat damp from the weather. You didn't sleep, he said softly. Neither. Did you, she replied. He placed a folder on the table. Inside were subpoenas and signed testimonies. Morris' final report. The bureau is ready, Jeff said. Tomorrow morning the hearing starts. Dennis will be there. The contractors too. And the city officials, Christina. Already under subpoena, but they're trying to delay. Morris says, we'll need to present the original drive. Your copy on record to verify the data's integrity. Christina's eyes lingered on the drive. So, everything comes down to this little piece of metal. Jeff nodded. Everything. Noon they met Agent Morris in a quiet federal office. Stripped of cameras and press. The agent's tone was steady, pragmatic. You did the hard part, exposing them. Now we lock it down. I'll escort you both to the hearing. Tomorrow. He glanced at Jeff. You'll testify first, then. Miss Miles confirms the audit trail from the flash drive. Jeff said. And if they fight it, Morris smiled faintly. That's why we bring truth with receipts. That evening, Boston's skyline glowed faintly through the rain. Christina and Jeff sat in silence in the car parked near the waterfront, the same pier visible from her apartment window months ago. You remember the first time we met? Jeff asked, quietly. Christina smiled faintly. You mean the day I walked into your building soaked and terrified? He nodded. You looked like you didn't belong there. I didn't, she said. But that didn't matter, did it? No, he said. You made it matter. The pause lingered warm and heavy. She turned to him. What? If this ruins you completely, Jeff? Your company, your legacy, he interrupted gently. Then it ruins the right man. Next morning, Federal Courthouse, Boston. Rows of press filled the lobby. The storm outside blurred the glass walls. Like misted memory, Jeff took the stand first. Calm, controlled. He presented the timeline. How the contractors, shell companies siphoned public funds through ghost invoices and false flood mitigation contracts. Then came Christina. The courtroom fell silent as she approached the witness stand, flash drive in hand. Agent Morris stood nearby. State your name for the record. Christina Miles. And what do you hold? The original Harbor Care audit files. Unaltered, time-stamped before the system breach. Her voice didn't shake. More unplugged in the drive. Monitors lit up. Thousands of entries, each one stamped with digital signatures from Dennis accounts. Gas rippled through the courtroom. One by one, the names of contractors, city clerks, and board members appeared, tied to illegal transfers. The judge leaned forward. Miss Miles, you're saying these records predate the alleged? Yes, Your Honor. They were extracted before Dennis shut down access. I was there when it happened. And who authorized that extraction? Jeff stood. I did. Hush spread. The judge nodded slowly. Then both of you just changed the course of this case. By afternoon, news swept across every network. Federal hearing confirms massive corruption in harbor project. Whistleblowers' data validated. Board director under arrest. At the same hour, Charles Dennis was escorted out of Jeff Horizon's HQ. In handcuffs, Jeff watched from the courthouse steps as rain began again, steady and cold. Agent Morris approached him. You just took down half a city's corruption ring, Mr. Jeff. Jeff shook his head. We only showed people what was already there. Morris looked at Christina standing beside him, then added quietly, sometimes that's the hardest thing to do. That evening, the storm east. Christina stood at the same spot by the water where it all began. She watched the skyline flicker. Not perfect, but alive again. Jeff joined her. They cleared me today, he said. And the Bureau wants you as liaison for the recovery. phase of harbor. She smiled faint, disbelieving. You mean, rebuild what we almost lost? Yes, he said. Together, if you'll take it. Christina looked toward the horizon. The rain had stopped, but the street still shimmered. Funny, she said, softly. It all started with the wrong message and ended with the right one, Jeff replied. Boston 2 months later, the rain had turned softer now, not a storm, just the steady rhythm the city had learned to live with. At the harbor construction site, the sound of hammers echoed against the skyline. Steel frames rose where old ruins once stood. Hope was rebuilding beam by beam. Christina walked across the muddy ground wearing a hard hat too big for her. Her vest was a new title patch. Community Liaison Harbor Care Renewal Project. She paused to watch a group of volunteers plant trees along the sidewalk. Maisie ran ahead, chasing puddles. Her laughter mixed with the sounds of the workers, a melody she hadn't heard in years. Behind her, a voice said quietly, "Looks better with life in it, doesn't it?" She turned. Jeff stood a few feet away, no longer in a designer suit, just a simple dark coat. He looked different, lighter somehow. They finally approved your plan, Christina said. Low-income housing, green spaces, medical wing, everything you fought for. Jeff smiled faintly. It wasn't my plan anymore. It was ours. She looked at him. Stepped down from Jeff Horizons, he nodded. Signed it. Away the day the hearing ended. The company survives. But I didn't want to own what greed had turned it into. And now she asked. I'm consulting for the oversight committee, he said, making sure they don't build another harbor care just to destroy it again. Christina smiled softly. Could have walked away clean. Instead he stayed, looked out over the site. When you see what something's worth, you stop running from the cost. They walked together along the new foundation lines, outlines of future homes. Children from the neighborhood drew chalk. Flowers on the pavement. The air smelled faintly of rain and concrete dust. Christina stopped near the temporary office trailer. On the wall inside hung a framed newspaper clipping. Single mother exposes 1,000 million corruption scandal. City begins reform. She traced the headline with her finger, then turned to him. I never wanted any of this. Just wanted to do one right thing. Jeff said quietly. And you did. You reminded all of us what right looks like. Hesitated, then added. I owe you more than I can ever repay. She shook her head. You already did. You believed me when no one else did. A moment of silence followed. Peaceful, unforced. As dusk fell, the rain began again, soft. Against the scaffolding, Christina stood under the half-finished canopy. Jeff joined her, offering his umbrella. You still afraid of big money? He asked jokingly. Christina smiled, remembering her words from long ago. I am, but now I know what to do with it. He chuckled. Me too. They watched the city lights flicker to life through the drizzle. Workers packed up for the day. Laughter fading into the distance. Christina looked toward the horizon. Harbor reborn. Beneath a gray sky. For once, she said, it feels like the rain's on our side. Jeff glanced down at her, eyes warm. It always was. We just had to walk through it. She met his gaze. No grand gesture, no promises, just quiet understanding. Two lives crossing at the point where truth met grace. Spring came late that year in Boston. The rain didn't stop, but it changed. Softer now, warmer, like something had finally forgiven the city. Christina stood at the new Harbor Care Community Center, sunlight slipping through the glass roof that still glistened from the drizzle. The building smelled of paint and cedar, new but rooted in old soil. Volunteers moved between tables, hanging signs for the opening ceremony. Children ran across the polished floor, their laughter echoing in the atrium. Maisie, now walking stronger and taller, tugged at Ava's sleeve. Outside, Jeff arrived quietly, no press, no entourage. He wore the same dark coat from that last rainy day. He paused at the entrance, watching the people fill the space. Christina turned and saw him. You made it, she said softly. I wouldn't miss it, he replied. You built this. We built this, she corrected. He smiled, the kind that reached his eyes this time. As they walked through the hall, Christina stopped by a wall plaque newly mounted near the entrance. It read, The Harbor Care Promise. Integrity is the foundation of every home, dedicated to the people who chose what was right even when it cost everything. Underneath 3 engraved names: Christina Miles, Chris. Jeff, Agent Morris. Christina traced her name with her fingers, then looked up at Jeff. He insisted we include you, Jeff said. Morris. Jeff nodded. He called it your wall of proof. Christina laughed quietly. He's still with the Bureau. Yes. And he says, next time we find corruption, we call him before hacking mainframes. She smiled. No. Promises. They stepped out onto the terrace. The rain had turned to mist, hanging low over the harbor. Across the water, cranes moved, rebuilding, restoring. Christina leaned on the railing. Do you ever miss it? What? Jeff asked. The boardrooms, the power. He thought for a long moment. I miss believing that power meant control. No, it just means responsibility, and freedom's heavier than I expected. She nodded. That's the price of doing right. He glanced at her. You remember your line? Oh, could I forget? A bell rang inside, the ceremony beginning. Christina was to speak first. She hesitated, nerves fluttering. Jeff whispered, you'll do fine. Christina looked at him. You always say that right before I have to do something. Terrifying. That's because it's always true. She laughed under her breath and stepped forward. Inside the hall, the crowd quieted as Christina took the podium. Her voice calm and steady carried across the space. When this project began, harbor was just an idea, and a dangerous one. People told us it was impossible to rebuild something so broken. But we learned that integrity, like a foundation, doesn't crack under pressure. It only shows who stands firm. She paused, eyes meeting Jeff's across the room. 2 years ago, I got a message I was never supposed to receive. Changed everything. Not because of the number on it, but because it asked me to decide who I wanted to be. And I think that's the question harbor asks all of us. Now, who do we want to be when no one's watching? Applause filled the hall. Jeff watched her step down from the podium, sunlight catching her face. For the first time since this began, she didn't look like someone surviving. She looked like someone becoming. Later, when the crowd dispersed, Christina walked outside again. The rain had stopped entirely. The sky for once was open. Jeff joined her, holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed her one. No press, no secrets, just quiet, he said. Feels strange, Christina admitted. Good strange? She nodded, like the calm after the storm. Jeff raised his cup to harbor care. She raised hers to doing the right thing, even when it cost everything. They clinked cups gently. No fanfare, no music, just rain-soaked wood beneath their feet, the hum of a city healing, and the sound of Mazius' laughter from inside. Christina glanced toward the water, her voice soft. No, sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd ignored that message. Jeff smiled faintly. Then maybe someone else would have gotten it, but I don't think they would have done what you did. She looked at him, eyes steady. Maybe that's why it was sent to me. He held her gaze. Maybe it was. Rain begins again. Soft cleansing, falling over the rebuilt harbor care where families move in, children run, and a woman once lost to struggles stands in the light she helped create. Thank you for watching the story to the very end. If Christina and Jeff's journey moved you, please give this video a like. It helps more people find stories that inspire hope and courage. Subscribe to our channel for new heartfelt stories every day. See you in the next one.